How's everyone doing? You guys feeling good? Wow, what a great intro. Thank you very much. Definitely not going to be able to live up to that. So I want to thank Terry so much for inviting me to have me here and everyone here working at the Lundgren Center. You guys are putting on a terrific event. I especially want to, I was watching Jean and she was talking about sneakerheads. So Air Force Ones, Nikes right there. I'm all about that. So at PTTOW, we love telling our members, inspiring stories. And often those stories are impossible stories. And Terry is one of our icon members. And I think that I heard Terry talking about when he was 20 years old and paying his way through school here. I don't know if at that time you ever thought that you'd have this school named after you. And that's an impossible story. And then we have a special guest that I can't wait for you guys to hear from, Bert, who started his company with $73 in his pocket and living in his car, and now runs a company called Life is Good, which is all based on inspiration. And that is a true, incredible, and impossible story. What Martha said last night at dinner really resonated with me because she talked about the students. That's where it's all about. I mean, U of A students, where are you? Let me hear you. There we go. U of A in the house. Because it's all about dreams, right? And that's what I want to talk about a little bit. So that's me. I was 5 years old. I came from Russia, from the Ukraine. A lot of action in the Ukraine right now. I was 5 years old. I came over with an awesome haircut and $100. Terry, no judgment right there. Okay, on the beautiful fashion outfit that I got. Our family worked hard, kind of the whole American dream. We moved to Orange County. And growing up, I went to my friend's Paul's house, and he lived in a community called Three Arch Bay. And he had this beautiful view, and they had a beautiful house, and they had a Ferrari in the driveway, and they had a Mercedes in the driveway. And I noticed that his dad read the Wall Street Journal every morning. And so I was like a 15-year-old kid, and I was like, okay, let's do the math here. Beautiful house, beautiful cars, beautiful view, Wall Street Journal. I got to start reading the Wall Street Journal. So I started reading it, and all of a sudden that became my dream. My dream was to work on Wall Street. And it seems like a funny dream doing what I do now, but that was a huge dream, right? I was a Russian immigrant Jewish kid. I knew to work on Wall Street, you had to be son of a senator, or you had to go to Harvard, or you had to go to Yale. And so I applied to, in my junior year at UCLA, I applied to 73 investment banks. Just so you know, any bank under 73 is like a boiler room, like Wolf of Wall Street. Guess how many acceptance letters I got? 0. Not only that, but I actually got 74 rejection letters because JP Morgan rejected me twice. It was a little bit disheartening. My second dream was to work for MTV, except guess what? I didn't have any experience working in music or television. So I got rejected from there too. I know, feel sorry for me. And then I wanted to become part of this private club. I bet you Terry's part of this club. It's called the Allen & Company Retreat. And it's where people that are kind of shaping our culture, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Mark Zuckerberg. And I'm not sure how you even apply for that. I don't know if you get like a secret phone call or someone like sends you a letter. Let me know later, Terry, okay? So I didn't even have a chance to like even get in there, so I got rejected. But you know what? Thank God. Because if it wasn't through all this rejection, like I wouldn't have this journey that I'm on. And it's been continues to be a really interesting journey. This is something that's so important to me because not getting what you want is awesome. And if I got what I wanted, I don't think I'd have a chance to do the things that I'm able to do now. But the thing that I also find is that rejection and dreams go hand in hand. The people that are the most successful are the ones that get rejected more than anybody else because they're trailblazers. They're doing things that have never been done before. Every time I get a rejection, that for me is motivation that I'm on the right track. It's only one step closer to yes for me. But what's not cool is not having your passion or obsession. I call it having off, which is having your obsession. O is for obsession, H for putting in the hours, and 3, having focus. Because if you're going to do something, pay attention to what you're doing and be focused at that time. So remember how I got rejected from all 4 investment banks? Well, I did the thing that was probably the craziest. In my senior year, I moved to Moscow, where my family fled from. To this day, they still can't believe I did that. That's me in the picture, and that I worked at one of the top finance companies because I spoke Russian, which as a kid, kids would make fun of me for having a Russian accent, and now it was like one of the biggest assets that I had. And so after that, I applied not to 73 investment banks, but I applied to the top 6, right? And guess how many offers I got from the top 6? I got 3. And I accepted an offer from my favorite, which was Credit Suisse First Boston, and I did mergers and acquisitions there, which was an awesome experience. Remember how I got rejected from MTV? Well, I was like, screw it, I'm going to start my own MTV. So in my bedroom, that's my bed, that's my computer there. I started a fashion and music television network when you're in stores, the next generation of MTV. And so we went from one store, and one of our first clients was Jim Estepa over at Journeys and Carrie Irons sitting right over there. And we built it to 10,000 stores. We did it for Journeys, we did it for Macy's, we did it for Dolce & Gabbana. And that was a really great journey. And remember how I got rejected from the Allen & Company retreat summit? I started my own. We started our own. It's called PTTOW. I think it might be a little cooler. That's me on stage with the head of Target, the president of Levi's, and will.i.am. And at PTTOW, one of the coolest things that we do is try to push each other. You know, whether you're a student or whether you're an executive, you need motivation. And the one thing that I think has been true to my story is that I go from failure to failure without losing any enthusiasm. Winston Churchill is certainly one of my heroes. But let me tell you something. PTTOW almost didn't happen. You know, the reason why PTTOW exists is 60% of the world is under 30, 4.2 billion people. It's also the largest consumer group in the United States, $1.2 trillion in spending. When you think of fashion, when you think of social, when you think of gaming, it's all created by and led by young people. And look around the world. Revolutions are happening. Not only are you having a revolution with your business, but your countries are being overthrown, whether it's Egypt or whether it's Syria or whether it's the Ukraine. So we did the math. The largest population, the largest cultural force, the largest consumer group, but there's nowhere to go. There's no Davos, there's no Allen & Company, there's no TED. And that's why we started PTTOW. PTTOW, we're an invite-only member network composed of CEOs, but mostly chief marketing officers because they control the touch points and they control the money. And icons who are shaping our culture. We're starting with the tip of the spear, and then we're going to work our way down. We started small, like everything else. We started with 25 people in a room. And the idea was, the idea was that we had every major industry represented. So for action sports, we had the founder of Quicksilver, Bob McKnight. For gaming, he was the CMO of Activision. For the government, it was the head of the State Department. The inspiration was that we had the best people in their industry, and they shared the same audience, but they had totally different products. I mean, the most important thing we have in our lives is that we don't know what we don't know. It's so easy to get involved in groupthink. But instead, if you hear from people doing inspiring work from other categories, that was the science. To put people in a room that would never be normally in the room together. After our second summit, we started to get a pretty high caliber of attendees. And I had my full-time job at Access. And it was fair, it wasn't, you know, we didn't want to half-ass it at PTTOW either because the caliber of people were spending a lot of money and a lot of time with us. So after our second summit, it was just a passion project. We created it just because there was nowhere to go. So after our second summit, I'm like, maybe we won't do this again. And a few months later, because I had to make a choice. Was it like my love, my passion, or was it something that I already done over at Access? A few months later, I met someone that I never thought I'd meet. His name is Lama Tenzin. That's him. He's a Buddhist monk. He's also the Dalai Lama's emissary for peace. You can't have like a normal business conversation with a monk because you can never ask yes or no questions. It's a really great conversation. Not if you're trying to do business though. So, after a few months of knowing each other, I had this impossible idea. I'm like, I'm going to see if the Dalai Lama wants to come to PTTOW. So we're having lunch at the Ritz-Carlton, a vegetarian lunch. I'm trying to wine style him a little bit. And I go, Lama Tenzin, you know how His Holiness loves speaking to young people in stadiums. His English isn't very good, so I was just trying to do this whole thing. He loves speaking to kids in stadiums all the time. And you know how those young people in stadiums, they have jeans, and they have cell phones, and they have TVs. You know, I'm thinking, can he relate to? And he goes, oh, yes. His Holiness loves young people. I go, great. I know it's completely impossible, but do you think he'd be interested in speaking to PTTOW? And we were friendly, so I think he goes, I will think about it, and I would talk to His Holiness, which in business terms means, well, he said, I will meditate on it, and I will speak to His Holiness. And in business terms, that means I'll think about it and talk to my boss, and you're never going to hear from me again. 3 months later, he goes to Dharmasala. It's October. And he comes back. We have a nice lunch for an hour. We talk about how's life. He's so interested in my life. How's my family? How's my sister? How's my mom? I ask him how his travel was. Finally, I get to, did you talk to His Holiness? Did you talk to the Dalai Lama? And he goes, oh, no. His Holiness is very busy. I'm like, of course it is. It's the Dalai Lama. So I go, you know what? It's even stupid of me to have asked. It was such an impossible ask. I go, well, okay, you know what? Forget it. Maybe it doesn't make sense. And he goes, oh, no. I'm having the elders meditate on it, and I will ask His Holiness the next time I'm there, which is December. We usually start planning the event like in November. So I'm imagining what elders look like when they're meditating. You can only imagine, like, to me, like, what's going through my mind, thinking the Dalai Lama, all this kind of stuff. So, October passes, November passes, December passes, January, I hear nothing. I'm like, it's just not going to happen. And, like, our momentum with PTTOW was slowing down because I had another business to run. So I was pretty bummed out. It's kind of like when you're in love with somebody and you feel like you're going to lose it. It's just kind of hard for me anyways to kind of let go of that type of passion. And so I kind of was pretty bummed out about that. And then on January 20th, I got a call, and it was Lama Tenzin. And so we had a nice conversation for about half an hour, just, how are you doing? In the back of my mind, I already knew it wasn't going to happen. But I asked him, like, hey, did you have a chance to talk to His Holiness? And he goes, oh, yes. I'm like, really? That's amazing. I go, what'd he say? He goes, he thinks what you are doing is a good thing. I'm like, wow. Like, he thought about me? Like, he thought of PTTOW? Like, that's incredible. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And then I'm like, okay, wait a second. That's exactly what people say right before they blow you off. Like, oh, we support you. So I go, okay, how am I going to ask this without asking a question, you know? I go, well, first of all, thank you for all your passion and support. Thank you for talking to the elders. Please let them know how grateful we are. And please tell His Holiness how grateful we are for him to even think about us. That means everything to us. Now, since we're 3 months away from this event that we have, do you think that it makes sense that we reserve a hotel to make sure that the Dalai Lama is comfortable? And he goes, oh, yes, that is a good idea. He will join you. So, thank you. So a few months after that, that's us on stage with the Dalai Lama. This is 3 years ago, right around now. That's Bob McKnight, one of our founders. That's will.i.am on the left. That's Lincoln Park. That's Kelly Slater. And you can see by my face, I still can't believe that's happening. And so since then, I think it's kind of, I read the Dalai Lama's book. I feel like we have a purpose. I've been more obsessed about PTTOW than anything I've ever done. I've been more obsessed. I've put in more hours, and I've never been more focused. Because I think PTTOW is bigger than I am. I think it's bigger than our team. I think it's bigger than our members. You know, individually we're powerful, but together we're unstoppable. And I think it's an opportunity for us to really get together to empower young people. And that's kind of the 20-year journey that we're on. And it's literally one person at a time. So in 3 years, our job is to showcase the biggest and most inspiring breakthroughs in our culture. We bring together for the people for the most inspiring ideas. Whether it's George Whitesides, the CEO of Virgin Galactic, showing us the first commercial spaceflight a day after it happened. Or whether it's Cascade. Who knows Cascade? People in the back. There we go. Ushering in the EDM revolution. I'm sure you guys all know, you guys are in youth, it's all about festivals these days, whether it's action sports or youth festivals. And of course, look at these guys crushing it at the X Games. I encourage all of you guys, the best thing you can do is actually go to these events and immerse yourselves in it. If we look at the power of PTTOW, if we add up all the revenues from our members, we only have 190 members. If we have the revenue from their companies, it equals $2.1 trillion, which would make us the 10th largest country in the world in GDP, right after France. So think of the power that we have to shape the world that we live in. The biggest thing that happens at PTTOW is that we want people that are normally never in the same room together to partner with each other. And so we've done over 50 major partnerships to date. Some are really inspiring, like Quicksilver partnering with the US State Department to send snowboarders as emissaries for our country. And some are even more predictable, like we partnered Levi's with Tribeca Film Festival to create like a social, jeans for social good. And then there's some companies that we help with as well, such as the heads of L'Oreal, the CEO of L'Oreal. They want to create a revolution when it comes to beauty. We want to help them with that. So seeing the world at 100,000 feet, there are certain business truths that we found. And I think they'll be important for you guys here today. One, the most successful companies, not everyone, not very many companies are successful to be the best. This is to be the best, that the rules have changed. Consumers, every product is a commodity. Like it or not, every single product's a commodity. To be the best, have the best product at the best price, those are just table stakes. Like you need that just to be in the game. The best, not only have the best products at the best price, but they're the companies that are doing it better. They're the ones who are storytellers that share inspiration and purpose. That's something that can never be a commodity. It's a company's DNA, it's the story, it's the founding members of where that company came from. You can look at a company like Warby Parker. They ask themselves 3 questions. Is what we're doing authentic? Is it unexpected? And is there a narrative that hasn't been told before? You guys all know the Tom story, one for one, not only some of the most comfortable shoes at the best price, but I know that I'm buying a pair of shoes for somebody in need. How awesome is that? And look at a company like Macy's. Do you know that they give $1 million per week to different causes ranging from the arts to education? I mean, that's inspiring. A big round of applause to that. Who else is doing that in this room? And in that, what we found is the companies that are the most successful, they have this internal culture. And that culture is something that we want to embody because we will need to be a beacon at PTTOW for these other companies. The first is radical inclusion. You know, we learned this from Tony Hsieh. He has a thing called return on luck and return on collision. At his company, they created one entrance and one exit so people would collide with each other in the office, so they become friends and get to know each other. And that's the same thing we have here. The only thing that ties us together as society is each other. Why are we here at this conference? It's because we need each other. We need to create a community, and we need to radically collide. At PTTOW, we actually have ambassadors that radically connect people that normally wouldn't connect each other. Tirelessly express gratitude, Russian accent. Guys, 90 degrees, Arizona, hanging out with the leaders of retail. I mean, if we can't appreciate the gravity of this moment right now, then we just don't get it. You know, we're so grateful for what we have. Unwavering integrity, people talked about transparency. That's exactly what it is. Today, anybody could find anything out at any time. And irrational generosity. I can't say this more. The people that we find that are the most successful are irrationally generous without asking for anything in return. That's something that's a profound, profound thing. And finally, for us, Steve Jobs said it best. Make a dent in the universe. We don't want to do like transactional stuff. Other people can do that. We want to do stuff that's the tip of the needle, tip of the spear. We want to do stuff that's never been done before. And that's something that's important to keep in mind also. So finally, the only thing that I'm certain of is that I'm going to get rejected more. Because I'm going to go after things more. But I know as long as I'm obsessed, and everyone has to have their obsession, and when you have your obsession, especially all the students in the back, people will conspire to make it happen for you. You know, people also say that you're a combination of your 5 best friends. If one of your best friends doesn't think that you can do the impossible, you need to rethink if that's one of your best friends. Find people that you can do anything because they're the ones that are going to be your biggest success story. Put in the hours. When you're obsessed with something and you love something, you're going to go to sleep thinking about it. You're going to wake up thinking about it. I heard other people say that they don't separate work from personal life. My personal life has gotten a whole lot better because of my work. And I love that. And then finally, focus. Our most valuable commodity is our time. Don't waste it not being focused on what you're doing. And finally, We're actually, we haven't announced it yet. Our summit's just a month away, but we've partnered with President Mandela's family and foundation in creating a new recognition, because his quote right here is what PTTOW is all about. If you ask Bert, if you ask Terry, or so many of you here in this room, when you started off doing, and I was talking to Jim about this today at lunch, I go, Jim, when you started Journeys with just 4 people in one store, did you ever thought you'd be up to $1.5 billion in revenue? And he said, not in a million years. And that story is more common, and especially for the students in the back. If you have a dream, it's the ones that are the most impossible that are going to make it, that are going to happen. As long as you're obsessed with it, you're going to put in the hours and you're focused. Thank you.
How's everybody doing? Why don't we stand up for a minute and stretch out and see if we can catch a Frisbee? Let's see if retail can catch a Frisbee. Somebody. I call that great coaching. So you can sit down. I am a human being first. Is audio okay? Oh, thanks. Nobody trusts me. He didn't think that I would find the clicker. I'm a human being first and a business person second, and you should be too. I think the strategy that makes sense is to figure out what we want to do with our lives, right? Our one wild and precious life. What are we going to do? And then utilize business to do that. Sometimes, particularly Americans, we do the opposite. Another way to say it is that I love business. I've always loved business. But I don't believe I was born for business, and I don't think you were born for business. Business was born for you. So I'm going to talk with you for about half an hour, and I'm going to tell a business story, and we're going to have some laughs at mine and my brother's expense. And it is a business story, but I really want to focus, and I want you to focus more on being a human being. Because as business people, I think that's where we're headed. I want to start doing that by telling you what's on my mind right now. Really opening up and sharing something that's really difficult. Life is good. The mission of life is good is to spread the power of optimism. And the first powerful optimist in my life was my mother. And we lost my mother. Her funeral was 2 weeks ago. She was 87 years old, and I loved her very much, and I'm just sort of learning what it's like to grieve and not have someone that you love that close. And we found out a few months ago, even though my mom was 87, she was a young 87. She literally went to the gym 3 days a week. Her mother lived to be 102, so we were expecting another 15 or 20 years, and she'd get on the ground with the grandkids and become the wolf and rolling around, and she loved to dance, and her favorite show was Dancing with the Stars, and she'd move all the furniture so that she could dance with the stars, you know. And so a few months ago, we learned that she had lung cancer. She never smoked a cigarette in her life, but she had lung cancer, and it moved really quickly. It moved all over her body, into her spine and her hip and her ribs. And thankfully, she didn't go through a lot of pain because it took her so quickly. We had enough time that I was able to sit down and spend a lot of time with her in the last couple of months. And at one point, I got to that conversation about her funeral and wake and all of those different things. My mom listened to everything I was saying, and she kind of said, that's all fine, that's all fine. She said, but, and I was getting choked up, and I was holding her hand, and she was on the couch at home, and she said, that's all fine, but I want you to know something. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. She said, you can have a wake and a funeral, you can do whatever you want. She said, I'm going to ask you for one thing. I said, what's that? She goes, I want you to have a party, and I want you to have a really good party for me. And we did. We threw her a ripping party after the funeral. And so I guess I want to ask a question before I get started. Here's the life is good guy comes in to just bum you right out. Right? Just what they want. Give me a chance here. So I guess, you know, if anything, what my mom's passing has done is that it's underscored that each of us has one wild and precious life. One. What are we doing with it? So life is good, but life is not always easy. This is my younger brother, John. He's my business partner. And I guess I'll ask you another question. You think growing up looking like that is easy? Now, being born so beautiful that people don't even want to get to know you, they just want to look at you, that's not easy either. Life is not perfect either. So this is my brother John and I in our bunk beds. We're the youngest of 6 kids, and we grew up in Boston. And John's on the bottom bunk, and I'm up top. And if you went to visit my folks, they live in the Boston area, and they would show you bookcases filled with photographs of my older brothers and sisters. This is one of 3 photos of my childhood. You know, where's the love? So I said to my mom about a year ago, I had the photo, and I said, you know, I can forgive you for losing the camera. You had 6 kids, not enough money, I understand. But how about putting some goddamn sheets on the bed? And my mom, that's my mom. So my mom was like, she didn't skip a beat. My mom was funny. I mean, at the funeral and at the party, we really laughed as much as we cried because there's so many. I could easily use this time just telling my mom's stories. But she didn't skip a beat. When I told her that, she said, well, aren't everybody buying organic sheets these days? Isn't that what they're doing with the green movement? I said, yeah. She said, well, I think we were ahead of the green movement. No sheets at all. She beat me. So this is my mom, and there's many things that I could tell you about it, but I'll just tell you one. We had a house with as much dysfunction as anybody in here, I guarantee you. And some nights when she'd get us all together for dinner, the police would pull up for one of my brothers. They never did anything terrible, but it was just, you know, good quality mischief, right? And my mom would get us together, and always at the dinner table, really small thing. But she would start the meal, once everybody was seated, by saying, tell me something good that happened today. And she changed the energy in that room. You try that at your next meeting. If you give people the opportunity to just open the meeting, they're going to focus on what's wrong. They're going to start bitching and moaning. They're going to start telling you why this department's screwing things up, or if it's your own family, why this brother or sister's causing the problem, et cetera, et cetera. But if you ask that simple question, you're sapping that energy. You get all the resource in the room, and whatever you focus on will grow. We have a choice when we wake up every day. You can focus on what's wrong with your life, or you can focus on what's right. And whatever you focus on will grow. It's the same with the macro picture. The best way to fix what's wrong with the world is by focusing on what's right with the world. So, armed with no money and no business experience, my brother and I headed out into the streets of Boston with our enterprise, designing and selling T-shirts. We had good advice from my mom, and we got in the streets, and like Roman, we failed miserably. We failed miserably for the first year, so we decided that the reason we were failing was we didn't have a van. We needed a van, and we wanted to get a cool van like, you know, a VW that would impress the chicks. But we couldn't afford, we went to an auction, and we couldn't get the cool one, so we bought like a soccer mom van. And we ripped all the seats out of it, and we actually traveled in that van for 5.5 years. And we slept in that van at night. And we sold door to door in college dormitories up and down the East Coast. And sometimes people see old photos like this and they say, wow, you know, life is good now, the business has grown. But in those days, life was pretty crummy. And I always say, you know, you missed the point. Life was good when we were sleeping in that van. We had a chance. Our disposition is powerful, all of us. We wake up every day, and the way we view the world leads to our actions, okay? When you wake up every day, what do you see? Do you see obstacles? That's what pessimists see. Or do you see opportunities? So we called the van the Enterprise for two reasons. When we were in it, and the shoebox with cash was in it, and the inventory was in it, that was the whole enterprise. The other reason we called it the Enterprise was because we told each other we were going to boldly go where no t-shirt guy has gone before. And we got in the van and started traveling. So as we traveled, we had many conversations. Sometimes the schools were an hour or two apart. And one conversation changed our lives forever. It was a conversation about how the media inundates us with negative information, always reinforcing what's wrong with the world. The 6 o'clock news is actually not the 6 o'clock news. It's the 6 o'clock violent murder report, right? Which is the reason some of us don't turn it on, okay? Now, the reality is bad things happen, but lots of great things happen too, and we don't hear about it as much. The media preys on our fears, okay? Somebody's running that station and they say, when was our ratings the highest? Well, it was the triple murder. It was the disaster. They say, go find me another. And it works that way, okay? So what's the impact of that was the question for my brother and I. And I'm honored, actually, to speak after Nike, because Nike was one of many inspirations to us. And we talked often about the swoosh. I read that book, Swoosh, to my brother aloud twice while we rode in that van. Anybody's never read that? It's very interesting, because at one point, it wasn't the world's largest sporting goods company. It was two guys like us sitting in a room somewhere, right? And they were wondering why everybody was wearing German sneakers, right? And so I got really inspired by it, and we talked to each other about, you know, Phil Knight, if you believe the book, hated the swoosh. He called it the fat check mark. He didn't want it. He just thought it looked weird, but they needed to put something on the box, so they put it on there, right? So we kept asking ourselves as we traveled, what's our swoosh? What's our swoosh? Now, combined with the media conversation, my brother drew this character, Jake. It's the, you know, he's still my business partner in all these years. It's the single contribution he's ever made. Let's see if we can catch another Frisbee. We're 1 for 1. Come on, retail. Yes! Fired up. That's never happened. You're a really good-looking bunch. So, let's see. So, yeah, John did the drawing with crayons and magic marker while we're in the van. And when we got home last night, we joked with a bunch of folks about being here on campus and what a cool thing that was. And we were so jealous of the students, we wanted to go have a keg party, right? Well, we had a tradition while we were traveling in that van. When we came back, we usually went on the road for about 6 weeks. When we came back to Boston, we threw a keg party. And we provided the beer, and we asked our friends, if we put our artwork up on the walls, for them to tell us what they liked and what they didn't like. And when we came home with Jake, the character, it didn't say life is good. We put it up on the wall. Lots of other artwork, lots of other harebrained ideas. And people wrote so many things around Jake, and this one girl at the party, she gave it to us. In business, especially as leaders, we think we have to have all the answers. We don't have to have all the answers. We need to listen. And this girl at the party, friend of ours, she put an arrow and she said, this guy's got life figured out. And in the morning, we distilled that into the 3 words, life is good. So she kind of gave it to us. We had had many ideas before, but this was different because when we got in the street the next day, it sold. It actually sold. So this is a picture taken the first day in the street. It's in Central Square in front of the McDonald's. It says, buy a shirt and feed the skinny man. And there's Johnny. He didn't turn out half bad. And a lot of cosmetic surgery. And we sold 48 T-shirts in 45 minutes. That may not sound like a big deal because we're one of the smaller businesses here. There's a lot of big businesses. But let me tell you, as somebody who had been selling T-shirts in the street for 5.5 years, we never sold 48 T-shirts in a week. And we sold 48 T-shirts in 45 minutes, and it scared the shit out of us. I mean, we looked at each other, and we didn't know what was happening. So it was amazing that they were selling. What was more amazing was that the broadness of the demographic. There was a Harley guy that bought it. There was a preppy school teacher that bought it. And there was a skate kid with purple hair. And they all bought this same simple message. and it hit us like a ton of bricks. We said, our culture is starving for optimism. We were psyched about it. We just had no idea what to do. So what we did was what any red-blooded Boston guy would do. We got in the van, we drove down to Cape Cod, and we went swimming in the ocean. Seemed like the right thing to do. So as we're swimming in the ocean, we decided, hey, genius. Yeah, what genius? Let's try to sell the shirts to a store. Okay. So we knocked on about 4 or 5 doors, and a retailer, a T-shirt shop, said, we'll take 2 dozen. So we sold them 2 dozen. We didn't invoice them. We just left 2 dozen. We're driving home. We're like, think they'll pay us? I think my brother wrote our phone number, like the phone number at the apartment on something, and we left, right? 2 weeks went by, and she called, and she said, hey, we sold all 24 shirts. We really like them. I said, great. She said, my husband and I have an idea. Our shop is next to an ice cream shop, and we think life is pretty good when you're having an ice cream. And I'm slow, but I'm precise. I said, yeah, what's your point? And she said, well, we're wondering if that Jake guy eats ice cream. And I said, nobody will. So Jake started eating ice cream. And then 2 weeks later, her sister-in-law, who lived up in Vermont, called and said, my sister's doing great with those Jake ice cream ones. Or I'm up in Vermont, and we're on the bike path up here, and we like outdoor sports. Does Jake ride a bike? Now I got smart. I said, no, but if you pay in advance, he will. So Jake started riding a bicycle. Who doesn't love to ride a bicycle, right? And we quickly learned that we could celebrate anything that's healthy, anything that people want to do out there. And it's not about us. It's about the receiver of the message. We never cared about apparel. I think you can probably tell looking at me, I don't care about apparel today. That doesn't mean we don't make good apparel. I've been in every factory in the world now. I could bore you to death how to make a T-shirt, how to make it soft, get the right fit, blah, blah, blah. Anybody can do it. The T-shirt is a tremendous vehicle for a message, okay? If a human being is going to wear something on their chest, that says something about them. They are screaming to the world, who belongs to my community? What do I believe? That's what we were juiced about. We were in the street talking to the consumer, and the consumer was telling us over and over what they want. We didn't know what any of this meant. Everybody asks now, like, what kind of business model? I don't know what a business model is. My brother cannot spell business model. But the business started to grow under our feet. There's a lot of people in this room that would have grown that business from 0 to 3 million with our brand in like 6 months. We made every mistake in the book, but despite us, that brand was carrying us. And the other thing that was carrying us was our consumers. They could tell that we didn't know what we were doing, okay? I'm not telling you the half of it, but they liked us. They laughed at us. We were transparent. We asked questions. We were polite. We cared about other people. And they helped us. We fell and skinned our knees and fell and skinned our knees, and they kept picking us up. And our customers kept helping us. They still help us today. So as the business was growing in 2000, we had a visit from consultants. And the consultants told us that it's remarkable in 6 years you haven't spent any money on traditional advertising. However, and they showed us all these really confusing graphs and charts, and they showed that it's not sustainable. So you must invest in some form of traditional advertising. What do my brother and I know? So we set aside some money. Wasn't a lot of money, but we set aside, we said we're going to do a funny radio thing, right? We wrote some jokes, and we were all fired up for that. And then we started realizing that we were getting mail from the most unlikely people. Companies called Life is Good, and we're celebrating life. Ice cream and throwing Frisbees and whatever, right? And all of a sudden, we're getting mail from people going through chemotherapy. We're getting mail from people who got in car accidents and lost a limb. We're getting mail from people who lost a young child, people who faced severe adversity, and they were somehow the ones who embraced the message the most. Our customers taught us a huge lesson. I want to read the type of letter that we got. It's one of my favorites. It comes from one of these twin boys, okay? And the letter says, "Dear Bert and John, my name is Alex. I have a brother named Nick, and we are 10. We both have some challenges in the world, but at the end of the day, we still have each other. We were born only 1 pound, so we had a lot of growing to do. When I was born, I had my leg amputated. Nick is blind. Me and Nick have all of your shirts with all the things we love doing best. But if you ask us what we like best, it's just laughing together. I now know, this part kills me because the kid's 10 years old. He says it like he's been around the world. I now know that Nick has more challenges than I do, but he says and does things that make me laugh and forget feeling bad. I don't know how to describe all this other than to say that I love him. You're lucky to have a brother too. He doesn't know my brother. I hope you do fun things together too. Your friend Alex and Nick. So when you get a letter like that, what do? You know, we got a lot of them. We got a lot of them. We've got tens of thousands of letters that are powerful like that. And we didn't know what to do. We kept putting them in a file. But right about this point, we decided that we would probably do the only logical thing that anybody in here would do. Probably guessed. We started a pumpkin festival. Oh, sorry. It's one more slide. We also, before starting the pumpkin festival, we came up with this little slogan, Get To. It's very simple. We realized, and it's about gratitude, we realized that at Life is Good, being in contact with all these customers, we should never say the words have to. We should never say I have to work late today. We should never say I have to do the laundry or I have to go grocery shopping. We get to go grocery shopping. You get to go grocery shopping because that little boy can't see. And we can read the labels. You get to do the laundry because you don't have to stand on one leg while the machine does it for you. You know, how dare we complain about those kind of things? It's something that works at Life is Good, and it can work at your company, okay? We never say have to. We always get to. We get to be at this conference. We get to be with each other here. It's a privilege. I really appreciate every ounce of your attention for this short time. It really means the world to me. So we did start a pumpkin festival, right? And we had the pumpkin festival up in Maine. And if anybody's been to Maine in October, it ain't bikini weather, right? So this woman shows up. She's 16 months pregnant in a bikini, right? And we didn't know. We went to sleep that night. We never threw an event in our life. We didn't know what we were doing. We went to sleep thinking this is going to be a disaster. At 8 o'clock in the morning when it started, nobody was there. Apparently in Maine, they got to sleep it off a little bit, right? So at like 10:30, there was like a sea of pickup trucks coming. And we ran out of everything. She brought her husband, Mr. Positive Man, and all these people. We had a pumpkin pie eating contest, and we had pumpkin carving, and we had pumpkin ice cream, and we ran out of everything. People were going back to their homes and getting pumpkins. It was remarkable because to us, like, it raised over $150,000. 100% of it going to families of children who were dying with a life-threatening illness. And it was really powerful. It was really galvanizing to our organization. We did not know what we were doing, but we were watching it unravel in front of us. And the next year, we had it again, and something very special happened. People started dedicating pumpkins to someone they knew who was suffering, that they loved very much. And so the stories in the papers, they weren't about our brand, and they weren't about our company, and we could care less. They were about the real stuff happening. The people were really opening up and sharing their own personal stories. And that's what the newspapers focused on. And they focused on beautiful, beautiful sentiments from people. I still kept those clips from the newspapers because it was some of the best stuff I ever read. Here we are ripping on the media already. Maybe it's our job to give them something beautiful to write about. Our employees demanded that we continue to have pumpkin festivals. We did surveys every year. And the number one thing, and my brother and I thought we were doing all this great other stuff. The number one thing was this stupid pumpkin festival, right? We couldn't get away from it if we tried. So, you know, it was more that we've been sleeping like a baby since we had the first one. And it was more that idea that this seems to be working and everybody seems to want it, but it put a bounce in our step. It made us feel really good. You know, if you're not doing some type of nonprofit work and hopefully integrating it into your businesses, start to do that, or do more of it, because do it selfishly. It feels really good. We continue to invest in pumpkins. The same consultants came back, and they looked at the hours of what people were doing. They did this little study, and they showed us all these hours, and they said the sales reps, instead of selling T-shirts like they should be, they're in pumpkin patches negotiating with farmers. This is really foolish, and it's cannibalizing your business. And we said, I know, but everybody loves the pumpkins, and all this stuff. So again, we didn't follow up here as much, and we followed here more. And we hired this person to run logistics for the pumpkin festivals. And we grew the festivals, and we grew them to 9 states. And we started raising a fair amount of money with the festivals. And in 2006, when my brother and I in that van, we wrote a bucket list. And one of the things on the bucket list was to break a Guinness World Record. And if you're not a world-class athlete and you're not one of the smartest people in the class, in order to break a world record, you got to do something stupid. So this is a picture of 31,280 something lit pumpkins at the same time, carved and lit. And we didn't carve them. The city of Boston carved them. And it raised over $500,000 in one night. And the Boston Globe wrote back to the media, there were more people on the Boston Common. There haven't been this many people on the Boston Common since the Vietnam War protests. And Project Joy showed us that children who face violence and poverty are no different than children who face cancer. If these things are going to kill a child, what's the difference? And the same thing, emotional wellness, can help that child and the family. So we witnessed after Hurricane Katrina, children who lost their homes and their parents. And we watched this organization come in. We paid for them to go down there. Money from the pumpkins paid for them to go down there. And we witnessed them actually saving these children's lives. We witnessed them working with the child care providers and building sustainable programs to give these children emotional health, to teach them that it's okay to laugh, it's okay to sing, it's okay to dance again, that they're loved, putting people in place that will love them and surround them. The next thing that we did was we made a dedication that for the rest of our lives, a minimum of 10% of the profitability from Life is Good would go to Life is Good Playmakers. So the organization, we actually merged in with Life is Good. We're now one brand. We're a for-profit organization, and we're also a 501c3. Let the government figure that one out, right? A minimum of 10% goes directly to what is now called Life is Good Playmakers. What's more powerful, and this is an important one for all the organizations in the room, than the money the organization can give. We'll give as much as we can, but you can only give so much. You got to take care of your employees. You got to build the business. You got to reinvest, blah, 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 right? But we have a lot of touch points. We're selling millions and millions of T-shirts out there, right? All those touch points now talk about to our customers how they can help kids, how they can get involved. It doesn't have to be with us, but they send them to our website. Open the doors. Let them figure it out. Some people don't need to look. They trust you. They love it. Some people want to look. They want to dig in. They want to get on the phone. We have people manning those phones. We want to talk about kids. We want to use business to fulfill our dreams, right? It's not the opposite, right? We don't want to use ourselves to fulfill the business's dreams. We're the human beings. What we want to do, that business can serve us, all of us. So the business grew. We have a men's line and a women's, boys, girls, infants, toddlers, and you learn those things. And we started growing, and we're in a lot of retailers. We're in all just specialty. So the business has grown all through specialty. We're looking at doing some other things and getting into some distribution channels that we don't know enough about. So it's great to be here and talk about that with some folks. We have a music festival. It's called the Life is Good Festival once a year. It raises $1 million every time. We get artists like Jack Johnson. This is Michael Franti. We've had Dave Matthews. We have 27 artists, all different genres of music. The common thread is that they're celebrating the world. All different types of music, everything from classical to hip-hop, jazz, you name it. we do it. And it's raising good money, it's raising good awareness. It's 30,000 optimists getting together. And one of the cool things about it is that it represents the brand very well. And another very cool thing about it is that our community, like everything else, is building it with us. And by staying true and being authentic, I can't even tell you how this happens, but more and more people get together. And, 1989, the internet was invented. It's taken a little while to pick up steam. In the same year, the Berlin Wall came down, right? So this global debate about communism and capitalism ended, right? Free enterprise capitalism, two big things. One is that it's become the global forum, right, for economic development. And two, the consumers have taken control for the first time in the history of the world. Those are big things happening in our lives right now. How do we utilize that? We believe that humor is a superpower, and we put ridiculous signs up at our events. And in Boston, everybody has 3 PhDs and everyone's smarty pants. So I stood behind a bush and I watched people walk up to this, and I swear to God, 3 out of 4 families would walk up and have a laugh, and the other one would walk up and read this sign. I'm not joking. And they'd go like this. You just want to hug them. I don't know what this kid is looking at, but we blew his mind. This is a new fundraising. You know what, with time, maybe I'm going to, if I can, I might blow by this. It's great, and what it is people nationwide can have Life is Good fundraisers at their home if their kid is having a birthday party or they're having Monday Night Football. We're enabling them, Life is Good, to be there with them. And instead of just having a day, maybe those kids, instead of having a $10 toy at your house, they put $10 in a jar and teach those kids that other kids face difficult things. So I'm going to see if I can sort of, yeah, that worked. TripAdvisor has been a fantastic partner of ours. We have enabled their employee base to get involved with Life is Good, help us fundraise, help us have fun together, and we're going to do a lot more things together. The reason I put them in there is we don't ordinarily do business together, okay? Any businesses can work with each other. We're interested in working with anybody in here. We can bring a lot of fun to the table, and we can make giving and helping really enjoyable, and we can help your staff to get involved. We can help corporations get involved. Everything that we do at Life is Good is about spreading that power of optimism. And sometimes people think that's all light without shadow. It's not. Life has its challenges. We live in downtown Boston, and Life is Good is in downtown Boston. So last year, this hit home really hard. And one of our employees was a victim, and he's a good friend. And when we found out about that, if you look where the sign is, that red and white sign, he's the gentleman behind the bike rack. And we collected everyone at the Life is Good store. We had about 35 people that were around the finish line area. And John wasn't there. We were doing marketing activations at the time. And so we heard that he was at Mass General, and I went to Mass General to see him, but since I wasn't family and his family was away, I was unable to get in. I asked that night if John was going to live because he had taken shrapnel from head to toe. And the doctor said, we hope so. That was it. So I went home and paced back and forth for about 2 hours, went back to the hospital, and now they let me in. And the first thing that he said to me was, I'm so grateful. And I said, explain, John, why are you grateful? And he said, well, when the bomb went off, it blew out underneath me low, and I hit the cement. And I looked to my right, and I saw that little boy, and I knew that he wasn't going to make it. And I looked to the other side, and everybody was missing legs or arms. So I felt for my own, and I knew they were there. This was a hate crime. This was 2 young people who were very confused. And there's no doubt about it, they committed a hate crime. But in the wake of it, the immediate wake of it, there was a tremendous amount of love. First tens and then hundreds, then thousands, and then millions of people giving love. Millions of people helping any way they could. It's Life is Good job to celebrate that and to point out the love. So we made a t-shirt. Nothing is stronger than love, Boston. Very simple. In 60 days, that became the best-selling t-shirt we ever made. We have tried for 20 years to sell the word love to men. Can't do it, right? In this situation, 61% of the shirts that sold were to males, right? When something matters, we're humans first. And the human beings looked at this situation and they bought that shirt and they wear it. And they love the message for their kids and they love the message for their community. And we donated every single penny of that shirt, over $500,000 in 60 days. Just the profit, over $500,000. Every penny of it went to buy prosthetics for the victims. I apologize running late. I'm going to wrap it up, okay? So it's been 20 years, and I think one of the important things is you can't do everything. We're focusing on the millennials, and we are told that we have to do 10 things at once. We can't. Everybody in this room pretty much is a digital immigrant. We're not digital natives, okay? We can't do it all. Do the most important things and do them really well. I spent a week with Richard Branson recently. It has nothing to do with my talk. I just wanted to let you know that I hang out with Richard Branson. The business has grown despite the focus on helping kids and the cannibalization of our business, supposedly. Our customers have built our business and we're continuing to grow. It's over a $100 million business and it's growing 15% this year. We're getting involved in a lot of other businesses with market leaders. We did a deal with Hallmark and a deal with Smuckers. We're looking at other industries and we're licensing. And the best part of the license is that 10% of the revenues that come to us always go to Life is Good Playmakers to help kids overcome challenges. We don't believe that Life is Good is an American message. We believe that it's a global message. So we're ambitious about where we're going to go with this little brand. I want to finish by just saying to everyone in the room, but in particular to the college students, that we'll all have that time, the time that my mom had recently, our time, you know, and what will we do? Will we sit there and say, I need to run around and make up for things? Or will we comfortably say, throw me a party? If we say throw me a party, it will be because we loved with our heart for our whole life. That's what my mom did. She spent her whole life living with her heart. The thing we learn as we get older, everything peaks early except one thing. Wisdom's the only thing that doesn't peak early. And as we live and as we get older, everybody in this room will agree. If you don't now, you will at some point. The only true currency in the world is love. Thank you very much.